All right, we are back. We have got episode 20. We're going to call it 21, though, because we skipped 17 a few weeks ago. So we're on to episode 21. And we're doing picks against the spread, talking some Bears, and we're getting started. I think, Tom, you wanted to kick it off? You got some coach speak?
Yeah, so if we're gonna start off here by talking a little Bears, because this is the Bears podcast. There's not much going on in the offseason for the Bears now, but offensive coordinator, we've cleaned offensive staff out. Am I correct on that? Did we get rid of our lineman coach, offensive coordinator?
Coordinator, quarterback coach for sure. And there were a couple other firings as well.
Do we all just have pen and paper out right now?
I always got pen and paper.
Just old school.
Tom hates the environment.
Okay. So, like right now, we have 7 offensive coordinators that we've interviewed, and I want to play a little game. Out of these 7, who do you guys think is the best candidate right now? Morgo, who do you think?
Oh, you're starting with me?
Sure. No, let's go, Jesse. You're not ready.
Okay. I never said I wasn't ready. All right.
Yeah, I mean, just going over this list quickly, we've got Shane Waldron, who's now in Seattle as the offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak out of San Francisco as the 49ers passing game coordinator, Liam Cohen, who most recently was with the Kentucky Wildcats as the offensive coordinator, but was also the Los Angeles Rams offensive coordinator in recent years. I think let's see. He spent 2022 as the Rams offensive coordinator. We got Greg Olson, he's now the Seattle Seahawks quarterbacks coach.
Seahawks.
Greg Roman, who was Todd Monken's predecessor as the Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator. Thomas Brown, who was the Panthers offensive coordinator this year with Frank Reich, and Marcus Brady, who most recently was a senior offensive assistant for the Eagles. So, I mean, I think those last 2 guys, you just look at the teams they were on this year and how their offenses performed, the Eagles and the Panthers. The Eagles obviously ended the year really poorly, and the Panthers were just not a good team this year. So I think you eliminate those guys right off the bat. Greg Roman's been out of the game for a year, so maybe that's a good thing. Maybe he's reinvigorated, comes into a new organization and does some good things. But the guy I like the most, I think, is probably the first guy on the list, Shane Waldron. He was with the Los Angeles Rams as the offensive coordinator, I believe, the year that they won the Super Bowl. I hope that's right. But, if that's the case, he's coached under Sean McVay, who we know is a prolific offensive mind. We do know his brain is not as big as Dan Campbell's sack, but we know he can put an offensive game plan together. So if we can modernize the Chicago Bears offense, which is something that they just haven't been able to do, I think it's gonna be beneficial for whoever is at the helm of that offense, whether it's Justin Fields or a young quarterback that we draft. So if I had to pick between one of those 7 guys, I think it would be him, although I'm not sure they'll make a decision on this right away. I think they probably do want to, so that they can begin to plan and have those discussions about who the offensive coordinator likes in terms of the draft and include that person in those decisions. But, way too early decision from this short list here, I'd say Shane.
It's kind of a good transition there. I, too, like Shane Waldron a lot. I do like, who was it that you had mentioned? Not Thomas Brown, Greg Roman. Not so interested in him. I think you might have a little something there with him being reinvigorated. But like you were saying with the draft, that was kind of the point that I was going to piggyback off of. I think a lot of these coaches were just interviewing to somewhat lead people astray. Greg Roman, for example, it's like, oh, we're going to stay with Justin Fields if we have Greg Roman as an offensive coordinator, right? Same thing with, who was it, Tom? Was it Cliff Kingsbury?
Let's see
it
here.
wasn't funny the second time. Tom mispronounced his name earlier, but
I actually left him
Cliff
completely off the
Kingsbury.
list.
But yeah, I mean, obviously that would be a little more of a hint towards Caleb Williams and whatnot. But
I think that's just out there for publicity, dude. I don't know.
yeah, exactly. I think to lead other teams astray, to kind of not play our hand too early here with our number 1 overall pick. But I'll go with Shane Waldron as well. Just when you look at that list, his name stands out substantially. Whether it's the other names on the list are pretty bum, or he's just got an exceptional resume. But from the pool there, I like Shane Waldron quite a bit. Yeah. I know we're all just going
He is
there of the, I think 3 we've touched on. Well, I think there's 3 for me. So Waldron, being at the top of the list seems to make sense. Obviously he's had some success in the past couple of years with Geno in Seattle. I think that says a lot if you're able to kind of bring along a guy who maybe hasn't tapped into his full potential throughout his entire career.
Yeah.
And if they are to keep Fields, that experience could prove helpful there in the sense that there's a lot of people, including myself, that think that there is a piece of Justin Fields that's unlocked. Will it ever be truly unlocked? I don't know, but I do think he has plenty of potential. It's just a matter of how do you get access to it. So I like Waldron in that regard. Another guy that I think is interesting is Clint Kubiak. Being in San Francisco, in today's NFL, if you have sniffed a fart from Kyle Shanahan, that gets you like 5 steps up the ladder in terms of like what you know.
He's got a tree. He's got a whole tree.
And that part is interesting.
And it's in his brain now. Sorry.
You're fine. The problem with that is, that offense is predicated on a quarterback being able to process very quickly. That's what you always hear about Purdy. It's like, hey, last pick in the draft, he didn't have all the tangible talents that you see a lot of other quarterbacks have. Certainly in terms of, a physical presence, he's not what Justin Fields is. He doesn't have as good an arm as Fields. He can't run like Fields, but he can process the game very quickly. I'm fearful that if an OC comes in and tries to implement a type of offense like that with Fields, that isn't necessarily his strong suit right now. Could he pick it up and could he grow and develop into a more efficient offense? God, that would be fantastic. But I don't know if he has that ability.
Who does have that ability? Secret Bajan man, Tyson Bagent.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Tyson Bagent, Chicago Bears.
Greg Roman. I actually don't hate the Greg Roman take
Really?
Or interview. He has experience with a very sort of raw talent in working with Lamar. Lamar won MVP. I think it was like his first or second year with Roman. And, that team, I think, had made it to the playoffs. Now, Lamar's 1-3 in the playoffs. We'll get to that in a little bit. But if the Bears can make the playoffs with Fields, that's a win for me. I'd love to see him make a deep run. But if we can at least improve the team and maybe really find an offense that just fits for Justin, if that is the direction the team ends up going, I don't hate the Greg Roman interview. And I think if they were to hire him, he'd obviously be able to kind of carry over some of the stuff that he maybe had put in place with Lamar in his early years in Baltimore. Kingsbury, obviously, you guys touched on that one.
Did you see what Dez said about Greg Roman interview?
No.
Dez Bryant tweeted and he said with the Bears interviewing him as the OC, if you're a receiver, DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney. request like get out of there now or something like that. I forget what he said, but like is not supposed to be conducive to a passing offense, but which is
that was obviously a very run heavy offense, and they utilized Lamar's legs in those early years. That goes without saying. I mean, well, Jesse's touched on this before. Lamar is like a master of getting himself out of these like massive hits. He just doesn't take them. He's like a magician. Yeah. There is a chance that Justin Fields could be life-lighted out of Soldier Field in the first week in that offense, because he does not have that ability. He's like a deer that can't stay away from the highway. He just loves to get hit by semis. Yeah. Kingsbury, the last piece there. Obviously, that plays into the Caleb Williams side of things. There's a connection there with him at USC as the OC last year, working with Williams previously. I've made the switch. I'm ready to cut ties with Justin and move on. So if I don't necessarily like Kingsbury, but if that means that we're looking at, starting with a new QB, I'm okay with it. So I don't know.
One thing to note about the whole Justin Fields situation is unless Atlanta or one of these other organizations comes and offers their top, half of the first round pick for him, I think he's going to continue to be with the Bears until at least the week of the draft, if not draft night. He's packaged in some deal to move up or packaged with another pick. Because if they get rid of him too soon, that's signaling to the rest of these teams that the Bears are going to draft a quarterback, and it devalues that first overall pick that much more. So anybody out there that's waiting, to see where Fields is going to go, I think you're going to be waiting until April for sure. So sit tight. Whether or not he's moved, I personally am in the camp that he will get moved, but I do think it's in the Bears' best interest to continue to keep him in-house until we get closer to the draft to make sure these other teams know that, maybe we're not going to take a quarterback for sure, right? Something to think about.
What if we take Caleb Williams and keep Justin Fields?
That would be stupid.
Why?
Yeah, I think. Because you can the value that you're going to get for Fields if you keep him next year and either he starts the first couple games of the year and then Caleb takes over is going to be less than what you can get for him before this year begins. I personally think.
To add on to that point, I think there's also a very real sociological, I probably just mispronounced that, but real sociological aspect of the locker room as it relates to doing the two quarterback thing. This team has already made it very clear that their guy is Justin. So if you say we're going to bring in another quarterback, we're going to do the like best man wins out type deal, it's not like conducive to building a unified locker room.
I was just thinking. I'm thinking like
you see it all the time. It like you see guys like, and there's this like who do we look at?
You think DJ Moore's not going to go run routes for Caleb Williams?
It's just
no, he'll absolutely do it, but it doesn't mean that when you step off the field and you go into the locker room, you're like, fuck this job, I hate it here.
No, that's fair.
Like that's how I operate every day at work. So there's no reason to think DJ Moore can have that experience as well.
I'm saying Eberflus is like, Justin's our guy. We're gonna not give up this just generational talent. They're saying we're gonna get him just because he's there as backup, and there's a competitiveness to it. But like, say Justin's our guy. 3 weeks in, he's 0-3. And Caleb,
it's all smoke screens. And Tom, to your point, they're doing it to make these teams believe that Fields' value is much higher than most likely what it really is. They want to get as much as possible for him. So, of course, Eberflus may be saying Fields is our guy, Fields is a generational talent, X, Y, and Z. Oh, by the way, Atlanta, we'll take that 8th overall pick for him, though.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a tough.
You can draft a generational talent in the 8th spot in the first round.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do.
If we get that 8th pick and we have 3 top 10 picks, there's a lot of things that we're going to be able to do. And think about all the cap space that we're going to have. I mean, there's going to be some free agent signings that are going to really make a big splash, and it could really make a difference on how this roster looks next year and what type of playmakers we have. So I'm really excited to see how it's going to shake out.
Yeah. One more thing I want to talk about Bears. We all got to be like a minute. The head coaching. Is there any scenario in your guys' mind that we go back on the head coach thing? Because there's so many available head coaches in the NFL right now. I don't remember it being this quality coaches that have been in the league a long time. Is there any scenario where we go back on saying Eberflus is our guy? Quick.
I personally think no. I think we kind of covered this in our last podcast. I don't think everybody had been released that is out on the open market now. But I think by that point they had already kind of come out and said Eberflus was going to be back, and so I don't think they're gonna walk back on their word on that. And so for that reason, I think Matt's going to be our guy next year, for better or for worse, and
I feel like this Bears organization does that.
We've got to get a good locker room celebration video of Eberflus just dancing like a clown with the boys. Throw some chains on him. I don't hate Eberflus. I'm just saying that would make us like him so much more, though. We haven't had that. We've only had the dorky after game locker room talk where it's like, oh, the game ball. The whole team gets the game ball because the whole team came to play today, and it's like, oh, sick.
Well, let me remind you. He does give the nicknames, right? So we got Dino Dex, Beast, Predator, Hitman, Sandman, Dragon Slayer, Juggernaut. He calls Justin Fields one, just one. Roshan Johnson's governor.
Yeah, I mean, we were competitive last year. I don't think we should clear house. I just think we need to build on it. But yeah, I don't know.
And to Luke's point with the cohesiveness of the team, I hate saying it too because it's always the argument, right? Where it's like, oh, we're building something. You can see the improvements, and that's what Eberflus has been saying a lot, through his post game pressers and everything. Where it's like, oh, well, we've won 5 in a row at home in our last 5 games that we've played, or whatever the stat was that he was kind of standing on. It's like we did have that momentum a little bit. We do have a cohesive locker room, and I just feel like the head coach is a part of that. I don't think I do think it's unfortunate that there's so much available, head coaching talent on the market right now. That's unfortunate because we did just kind of play our hand right before that all happened. But I don't hate the fact that we did it either. I've kind of been defending Flus for a little bit now. He's a dork though. God.
Yeah. Okay.
Picks.
I did have one thing though, because I know we were talking about not a lot happening before the draft. Do you think that we could get an extension with DJ Moore done to keep him in Chicago before he goes off next year and his price tag goes up substantially? He's got a little left on his current contract, a couple years, I believe.
So this article's from March of last year. It says Moore's remaining contract is 3 years, $52.3 million. And the Panthers are going to eat 14.625 of that in dead money. So that means the Bears are set to pay him $38 million over what it would have been last year and this year and next year. So
it's kind of like the Jalen Johnson thing, right? We were trying to, negotiate a deal and work something out. And then the second half of the season, he went off. And now that he wants
I don't think they necessarily need to rework that contract. I think they're going to have this year and then, even next year. If he goes off again and has another career year, then it may be time to say, does he want to stay in Chicago? Do we want to keep him in Chicago? And how do we get that done for the long term?
That's going to be a haul.
But we could also draft a number one wide receiver in this year's upcoming draft on a much more manageable contract situation, and then go get some guys at other positions as well. So I think it's too early to have that conversation, I guess, what I would say.
Yeah,
When is it back, Mark?
It
April.
might make sense to do that now before if he does go off next year, it's going to be an expensive contract for sure.
I don't see them re-signing DJ. Like, I mean, if they do end up, like, here's the thing. You sign this guy in his prime to a pretty lucrative contract, as it is currently. When this contract's up, DJ is going to be pushing 30. I think he'll be like 29, 30 years old for the time the contract then. So an extension, so to speak, after that doesn't make sense to me. You like you said, it could be like a 1-year type thing. Who knows, like something like that.
We could even tag him.
Yeah, franchise tag situation, depending on where we're at that time. But I think that's a little too far down the road.
All right, let's get our picks in.
All right.
You got somewhere to beat some?
Yeah, geez, man.
No, I just I like the
wall mount.
Gonna go struggle with the wall mount, yeah.
Well, to start off the week today, or start off the weekend, we've got Houston at Baltimore. Baltimore's favored -9.5 in this one. Anybody want to start? If not, I can go first.
Yeah, I'll start.
Ooh, sorry, I said it first.
Right, go ahead.
So I'm gonna go first. Go ahead. I'm excited for this game. After last week, watching Houston against Cleveland, and the week before watching them against the Colts, which was basically a playoff game as well.
And you picked the Browns on the spread.
I did, yeah.
That was just out of respect for Nick.
Yeah, I thought the Browns could win that game, but I'm not picking against Stroud again. Especially getting 9.5 points. I think he is very real. We may be looking at kind of like that next really good guy. I kind of thought that would be like Herbert or Lawrence stepping into this, like, okay, I'm going to be in the playoffs and potentially like the championship round of the playoffs every year type player. We may be seeing the actual real version of that with Stroud. I think that their offensive coordinator, Bobby Slowick, is someone who, like, the Bears wish they could get.
That's a lot of Kyle Shanahan farts, that guy.
Yeah, exactly. Gas chamber for sure. And that game plan last week, it was like every single blitz that Cleveland threw at him, they knew exactly what was coming. They really tried to get to Stroud and get in his face, and he was excellent in under pressure, in my opinion. And I think he's going to see more of that this week against the Ravens. This is another defense from the same division as the Browns. It's very multiple. They throw a lot of different looks at you. And last week, that was why I picked the Browns, because I was like, I think he's going to see stuff that he hasn't seen before. Well, he did, and he shredded them all day long. So
that was low one out there.
Yeah. So I really like Houston at +9.5. I like D'Amico Ryans as well, and their defense is scrappy. They got pressure on Flacco last week, obviously very opportunistic with the 2 pick sixes in that game. We know that Lamar can take some chances with the ball occasionally. So, I think that bodes well for Houston in this one. I'm going to take them +9.5.
Dang.
I too am going to take Houston for a lot of the same reasons Luke is. Mainly the guy at the helm on the offensive side of the ball, CJ Stroud. Man, this kid's got some moxie, huh? I love watching this guy play. He is cool, calm, and collected in the pocket. He keeps his eyes downfield. He gets the ball out quickly. It's just something you want to see a Chicago Bears quarterback do for once in my lifetime.
How many times did you rehearse that before you came out and said it?
I didn't rehearse it at all, but
I love
It
that.
came from the heart, baby.
I love
yeah,
that.
I mean, I really like CJ. I think he, like Luke said, he's going to be great for a long time. And I hadn't even thought of him surpassing some of these other guys that the expectations have been high for, like Justin Herbert and like Trevor Lawrence. But yeah, he's absolutely right. He's shown us in his rookie year that he's kind of got what it takes to win these big games. And I think some of that it can be credited to D'Amico Ryans as well, who obviously is a great head coach, and he's got that defensive side of the ball playing well too. So I like the Texans on the spread. I think the Ravens have a couple things working against them in terms of, they sat their starters in week 18. They had a first round bye of the playoffs, which means most of their starters haven't played in 3 weeks at this point. So, there may be some rust there that has built up. And if they get behind early against this Texans team, it's going to be tough for them to work their way out. So Mark Andrews is out today. He's still injured. I know there was some speculation about whether or not he was going to play, but I don't think he is going. So that's, one of Lamar's biggest weapons and safety blankets on the offensive side of the ball. The Ravens defense is crazy good. So that'll be a fun matchup to watch between Stroud and them. But I think it's a close game. So for that reason, I'll take the Texans here.
Let me float one for you here. Texans are plus 105 for plus 5.5 in the first half. You make that deal?
Probably.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I might take that large, especially with the Ravens coming off 3 weeks of rest.
What are we talking?
2 weeks?
10, 15?
I mean, bands? No. Cents?
You're gonna put an air fryer on that.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about a pizza oven putting down on that. No, but I do appreciate that call out, Wargo, because I know we were kind of talking about some props and things like that prior to the podcast. So I do like that, and I think that ties in really well with what Jesse was saying about 3 weeks of rest.
Sure.
Do I think Baltimore can and most likely will win this game? Yes. But could they come out a little bit rusty, especially in the first half? I think that's a definite possibility. Especially when you don't have, like Jesse said, that security blanket with Andrews, who I think was some people thought he was going to come back earlier this week, and I think they announced that he's not going to play yesterday or today. I like that a lot. Tom, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, CJ Stroud last week, he came out and he's becoming a stud the last, particularly the last 3 weeks, because they have been kind of playoff games. With the offensive coordinator thing, I think watching that Browns game, I watched it all the way through. They came out and threw the ball a lot on the early downs, and I think that's messed with the Browns defense a little bit. So I have a little blurb here. CJ Stroud is 6-2 this year when he's the underdog on the spread. So he shines in big moments.
Got that dog in him.
Yeah, and Browns we're number 2 defense, and now he's going against number 1 defense in the league. Do I think Ravens might come out a little flat? Maybe, but they're pretty well coached. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I don't know if that's what happened.
I'll put you down as undecided on this one, Tom.
I'm kind of going back and forth, and you guys picked the Texans. I had picked the Texans in my brain here.
Tom, we can come back to it. I got a few more things that I wanted to get off on this game if you want to make an impulse decision.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. See if this influences you. So the Baltimore's defense, like you said, number 1 ranked. I don't know if that's actual facts. It's Tom fact.
Right.
But,
Everything I say, take with a grain of salt.
In their last 5 games, which do include the resting of the starters and that one that Jesse had mentioned 3 games back. Anyway, they have allowed 4 of their 5 highest passing yardages as a defense. And okay, so their 4 highest ones came in their last 5 games. Their 4 highest passing yards allowed were in their last 5 games. And then Texans defense has also been heating up. Will Anderson, guy's a dog. I think he's going to get to Lamar, and then Lamar is going to run like hell because it's supposed to be a little windy there, Tom. So there's not going to be a lot of passing. Lamar's going to get heated up from that Houston defense. So that's another prop bet for you there. Lamar on the rushing yards, CJ Stroud on the passing yards.
So who's your pick?
What?
Who's your pick?
Oh, Houston. Yeah, Houston for sure.
Yeah.
And I got him in the first half and all those prop bets.
I just worry about Houston running the ball. I know Singletary's been good, out of the backfield, passing it to him and stuff. I don't think he's going to run as well. That's what's holding me up on the spread, but I think it's going to be a close game in reality. My gut feeling says Texans. Even though you guys all pick the Texans, I think I'm going to pick the Texans as well. Let's move on.
Love it.
Yeah, everybody's on the Texans. Next is tonight, Green Bay going to Santa Clara, play San Francisco. San Fran's favored -10.
-10 it is now?
Yeah.
Good games, according to Vegas.
I see this being kind of a similar.
Yeah.
I look at it similar to the last game. I feel like this is just a little bit too big of a spread. One thing that stood out to me this week was how well Green Bay ran the ball with Aaron Jones back. He looked like he's been in and out all year dealing with injuries, but last week he looked great. I think the stat that I'd seen is that Dallas gave up 4.2 yards per carry this year to opposing runners. And, we think I've said it myself a million times, like we think of this San Francisco team as just being like a very, very scary defense. They give up 4.1 yards on the ground. So virtually the same amount of yards given up on the ground as the Dallas team that Green Bay just shredded last week. Jordan Love is obviously he's on a heater. And he's not leaving the table right now. Like every time people keep showing his stats, it's like most touchdowns by a Green Bay quarterback in their rookie year, more than any Bears quarterback ever. In his last 8 games, I think he's 21 touchdowns to 1 interception. I mean, he's on fire. And I think San Francisco, obviously roster wise, they got more dudes. But I think Green Bay, I also heard on a podcast earlier this week, a former player making the point that when you have a really young team, it's almost harder to scare them because they're just ignorant. They haven't seen it before. So that, I don't see this Green Bay team coming in and being intimidated by this San Francisco defense. They've got the youngest team in the league. I think they're going to be ready to go. Young legs as well. It's a long season, but they seemed very fresh last week with Jones back running the ball very well. And then these young receivers are awesome. So I'm going to take them +10.
Yeah, I hate to say that I'm a Bears fan. I hate the Packers, but what they're doing right now is undeniable. Jordan Love is playing well. Aaron Jones, like you said, was just unreal last week. And then that young group of wide receivers they got Watson back. And like you said also, I think the 49ers run defense is mediocre, all year long. They have the talent, they do. But like I said, I don't think they're going to be scared, or like Luke said, I don't think they're going to be scared. And I think that the 49ers still win though, but I picking Green Bay on both underdogs this week on Saturday. So Green Bay.
I'll go. I feel like my beard's lopsided. I need to trim it. I'm going to take San Francisco. I think that the chance that Green Bay comes out and runs the ball down their throat is definitely there. I do see that could happen. But realistically, I think San Francisco is going to score first. I was going to interrupt Luke earlier, but I decided not to. He actually didn't let me. But San Francisco's run defense allows 4.1 yards because they don't have to play against Christian McCaffrey because he's on their team.
He is
so
the dude.
There is also that element too, where I think it's going to be a little back and forth with that. Like once San Francisco gets up, they can run the ball and kind of eat clock because they have Christian McCaffrey. But if he breaks one for 70, 80 yards, I guess that's right.
If the Packers did what they did to whoever they played last week, I forget. Who they play?
Dallas.
Dallas, yes. They did 6-7 minute drives, maybe even longer. If they take the ball out of the 49ers' hands, that's what I am like. That's what they did last week. If they do that to this offense, it could get close.
Yeah.
But anyway, you pick them,
Yeah, no, Shanahan's historically schemed pretty well against Green Bay as well.
Yeah.
I'm just going off what my buddy Al says here. I hit him up for some stuff, and he sent me a book back. But I think we see a little regression in Jordan Love. I think he had a great year, first-year starter, great first year starting for him. I think CJ Stroud's the dude. Jordan Love is an imposter. He's the Daniel Jones, whereas CJ Stroud is Josh Allen. So,
wow. Damn.
Yeah, I said it. So I'm taking San Francisco on the spread. It's going to be a good game, though.
Yeah, I'm with you, Wargo. I think the 49ers cover.
Let's ride.
When they are healthy and they got all their dudes, they're dangerous. And I don't think they're going to let the Packers get out to such a big lead right at the beginning of the game like the Cowboys did last week. And because of that, I don't think they're going to be playing from ahead. And I mean, the Cowboys were just defeated by, it seemed like halftime. And I think Shanahan has historically done pretty well against those that have been loaded up on his farts throughout the years. So
we say one more thing about fart.
Yeah, So going against LaFleur, one of his disciples, I think he kind of knows his brain a little bit, and he's gonna have a few wrinkles in the game plan that are gonna give them some fits. I do really like Jordan Love's play. I think last week he was toying with that Cowboys defense. It was really fun to watch. And I have been saying that this Packers defense, like they played against the Bears in Week 18 and they played against the Cowboys last week. They're different than what everybody has been defining them as all year. But this 49ers offense is going to trump that and create some real problems for them. So between all those weapons they have, McCaffrey, Debo, Kittle, Ayuk, and then just being at home with some crazy guys on that defensive front between Fred Warner, Greenlaw, Bosa, Chase Young, they're just insane. So I think they're going to win by at least the spread and head into the NFC Championship, feeling pretty good. So give me the Niners here.
Yeah.
Also, compliments of Big Al sent over anytime touchdown for Debo. It's his nuclear missile play, and yards receiving and yards rushing for Debo as well are on the table. So if you want to fade Al, if you want to ride with Al, I personally am going to ride with Al.
Thanks, Al.
Takes this shit seriously, man. He does it for a living. So
shout out.
Next game, Tampa Bay at Detroit. Detroit's favored -6.
Jeez.
Anybody else want to kick this one off? I can go for 5 minutes again if you guys want me to.
No, I'll kick this one off. I think something that's cool being a Bears fan is the conference that is most represented still to this point in the playoffs is the NFC North. We had
fantastic.
2 AFC North teams eliminated last week, in the Steelers and the Browns. And so the Ravens are still there. First conference division to be completely eliminated was the NFC East. So everybody loves to see that, because that is the most despicable conference division. Sorry, keep using the wrong word.
NFC least.
Yeah, they suck. So yeah, shout out to the NFC North. Obviously, given some credibility to the other teams within that comp division. So having said that, I like the Lions on this spread. I know Baker played really well, and the Bucs played really well last week against the Eagles, but the Eagles, I think, were dead upon arrival, even though I picked them in that game against the spread. If you were watching that game, it was pretty evident to see that. And not that I don't think this Tampa Bay team's a bad team, but I think that the Lions at home is going to be a much different environment.
Eminem's going to be there, I'm sure.
Yeah, Eminem's going to be there. They're going to be wearing the blue ski masks. It's going to be loud. It's going to be crazy. I think the Rams probably beat the Buccaneers if they go to Tampa Bay last weekend. So I like Detroit on the spread here. I think they're a good team, and they make it to the NFC Championship. But give me them on the spread.
Yeah. Last week's game, Lions-Rams, was the best game all weekend. Both teams played really well, and either one would have a shot at beating the Bucs here. Last time these teams played, Lions had a hard time running the ball, but they did have Gibbs out. So with him back, I think the Lions win here. But did you see Baker last night, dude? Or last week? He got me fired up coming out, dude.
Sniffing the smelling salts.
And I feel
shaking, dude.
I feel happy for him that he's in this position to lead this team out. But I don't trust him. I think they're gonna have a hard time running against Lions.
I don't trust him.
Lions.
Tires for 10 minutes.
He's gonna have a hard time running against this Lions front. Dude. He's gonna have a hard time running against this Lions front. The Bucs are, and they're going to rely too much on Baker, and he's going to make mistakes, I think. So give me the Lions.
Mine's easy. I'll let Luke tell the story that he'll provide for his pick. But 22 degrees at game time, 1:00 tomorrow, Sunday, or 1 Mountain
Dome, right?
Yeah, it's in a dome. Yeah, but.
Hey,
gonna be lit, all right?
What the weather takes to me.
Still going to be 22 degrees in Detroit.
We're going to be tailgating in the cold. Everybody's going to be going crazy. People just turn into animals when it gets cold outside, and they're going to be tailgating prior to the game, which is in a dome. But yeah, Detroit at home. They're going to roll their ass. Roll them. Sorry, Luke. Did you get 6.5? I saw it at 6.
I've got it at 6 as well. I think it was at 6.5 yesterday, but it looks like it's moving a little bit closer to Tampa Bay. So you guys are all on Detroit. I'm gonna take Tampa here +6. A couple things. Tampa, you think it's just like, okay, this team just snuck into the playoffs. They're in the worst division in football. How deserving of that are they to be in a position like this? Did they really earn this, or was it just kind of by default that they found themselves in this position with a chance to go to the NFC Championship game? This team, there are a lot of guys on this team that have won a Super Bowl before, have made a deep playoff run, and got to be around a guy that a lot of people would consider the best football player ever. that a lot of guys on this team were on that team that won a Super Bowl a few years ago. Yes, Detroit on paper, their roster, I think, is much better than what Tampa Bay has to offer. But I think Baker is playing well. I think that his guys are healthy. Godwin, Evans, like they blew out Philly last week, really. And that was with Evans dropping a touchdown and a 60-yard catch. Like, that game could have been an even bigger blowout. They really handled Philly last week. And I like the experience on both sides of the ball. I like their defensive as well. Levante David is just like, I feel like when I was playing Madden like 03 with like Marshall Faulk on the cover, it feels like Levante David was in that game. He wasn't, just so everyone knows, but he's just been around forever, and he's a really, really good player. They've got Winfield Jr., who should have been like an all-pro this year. Jameel Dean, Carlton Davis. I think those are serviceable corners. And yeah, I think Tampa Bay can make this a legit game. They lost to Detroit earlier in the year, 20-6. I'm sure some people are probably thinking about that, but I think they're just playing well right now. I think the last week against Philly was really telling. I don't know if it's Philly just like being out of their minds at the end of the year, but they could not run the ball against this Tampa Bay team. And obviously that's something that Detroit wants to do offensively, to set up play action for Jared Goff, who really excels in that area. So I think Tampa Bay can negate that a little bit, and I like them to cover +6.
Ooh, I'm getting excited for football. Woo!
Next game is one that I think a lot of people are looking forward to. Patrick Mahomes going on the road to play his first road playoff game in his career against the Bills and Josh Allen. The Bills are favored -2.5 here. I think a lot of people see this as an opportunity for the Bills to kind of even the score, so to speak, with the Chiefs, who have been handing it to them in the playoffs since Josh Allen came to Buffalo. Thoughts?
Tom, what's the weather supposed to be like for this one?
A little bit cold, but the snow will end today.
What'd you get it at? KC -3?
I think it's 26.
I got Buffalo -2.5.
Or Buffalo. Okay, yeah, at Buffalo. Sorry. Okay.
I think the field will be in prime condition.
This one is a super fun one, because two of the premier quarterbacks in the league right now, between Mahomes and Josh Allen, and there's some history in this matchup, some playoff history. I think it was a few years ago or a couple years ago when this game was in Kansas City, and the Bills were up by I can't remember how much they were up by, but Mahomes went down the field, got him in field goal range in like 13 seconds or something. It was crazy.
Classic.
That was the game that they changed the overtime rules for, right? Because Allen didn't get a chance in overtime.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yep.
Damn.
And I heard something on the radio. They were talking about whose game does this impact more in terms of, or whose legacy does this game impact more, Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes?
Allen.
And yeah, I mean, I think you can make an argument for both sides, but for me, it's got to be Josh Allen, because Mahomes has been his daddy to this point. And so his legacy will continue to be that if he loses this game. For Mahomes, there can be an argument made that this is the year that he's had the weakest support around him that he's had to this point. So there is an argument to make for, if he really is this greatest of all time type player, he can elevate the play of those around him to, overcome adversity. And that's what this game is going to be for them on the road in Buffalo. And personally, I think that's who Patrick Mahomes is. He is this greatest of all time type player, and he does elevate the play of those around him. And historically, Josh Allen has told us that he turns the ball over, and
he didn't last week.
He is a prolific offensive force, and he's huge, and he has the arm, and he has the legs and the body type to be able to do whatever he wants and impose his will. But he sometimes tries to do too much, and that gets him and his teammates in trouble. And I think that's the story here. So I'm going to take the Chiefs in this one. I'd like to see the Bills win, but I just don't think that they're going to be able to do it against Mahomes and Andy Reid. I think they really know how to win these games in January, and I think they win this one in Buffalo.
Go, Wargo. What do you think? What are you thinking in that big old brain of yours?
Hey, Savannah.
Oh,
wait, you took Kansas City, Jesse?
Yeah, I'm taking Kansas City.
Casey, okay. No, I was really trying to make the case in my head for the Bills, but I just don't know if I trust the Bills' defense. I think Kansas City's defense is pretty good. They play with intent, and I think their intent will be to strip sack Jalen. And they're probably going to have favorable field position a lot in this game because of that. And Mahomes tends to capitalize in those instances, unlike the Bears. So yeah, I'm just going to ride with KC here. I'd like to see Buffalo win. I don't think it's going to happen.
Man, I thought I'd be alone with the Chiefs pick here, but you guys coming out quick. I think Mahomes is 8-1-1 when he's the underdog. Is he the underdog?
Yeah.
Yeah. By 2.5, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a bit of a good old-fashioned coin flip.
All the stats, but doesn't know how to implement them. Wait.
But both of these teams, are evenly matched in a lot of the aspects of the game. I just want to say I got to go with the head coach here. Andy Reid is a little bit better.
That ice stash was ridiculous.
I really think either team could win this game, but you guys maybe want to go Bills. Luke, who do you have?
Yeah, so I feel like this is –
give us the pick and then rationalize it.
Well,
yeah.
Nope.
I'm going Chiefs.
Wargo, were you on the Chiefs too?
I'm on the Chiefs, yeah.
Okay.
Tom, you just verified your Chiefs in it?
Huh?
Chiefs?
I'm going to say to carry through with Wargo's exercise here, I'm going to say the Chiefs, and then I'm going to talk myself through this, and then I may flip to Buffalo by the end of this. I don't know. Honestly, I'm flying by the seat of my pants here. I'm going Chiefs to start, and reason being is Buffalo. I was just looking at some of the injuries that some of the guys that they're going to be without. Their defense is thin already. I think everybody knows that. With some of their really cornerstone players being out all year, and they're not coming back anytime soon. But then in addition to that, some of these guys that have really stepped up and made a name for themselves throughout the year, they're now, dinged up as well. Specifically on the defensive side of the ball, but they're also looking at potentially not having Gabe Davis there, which I think is big. I feel like in a lot of these playoff games in recent years, somebody that's stuck out in those games for the Bills has been Gabe Davis. And I think that could be problematic for them. I don't think that the Bills will lose this game because of Josh Allen, though. And I think that's going to be the reason that Josh Allen remains such a likable character for so many people, is that he's this lovable loser because he has to keep going up against this superhuman in Patrick Mahomes every single year to get over this hump. And it's just if anybody else was having to go head to head with Mahomes, they'd be getting their shit pushed in just like Josh Allen is. And it's so tough because in these big games, it doesn't really seem like it's him it's just they can't keep Kansas City from getting that one last possession of the ball or this or that other thing. And I think Josh Allen will play really well. I don't think he's going to be the reason that Buffalo loses this game. I think it's going to be due to the fact that this Bills defense is thin, and you see Mahomes starting to make a little bit more of a connection with a guy like Rashee Rice last week, who had a fantastic game. I think he broke the rookie receiving record for a single game last week until Puka Nacua played, and Puka Nacua will probably be like a Hall of Famer. He's incredible. But it's going to be tough for these guys. I think that Buffalo's it's just like, you're in trouble now. We've got you at our house. We're going to show you. And it's like, I hope you're right. I don't want to see Patrick Mahomes win. He's getting on my nerves. Taylor Swift's getting on my nerves. Travis Kelce dropping every other pass is getting on my nerves. But until Allen proves it, I'm going to keep picking Mahomes in these big games because he is incredible. I mean, he's got the most clutch gene of anybody I can remember in recent memory. As soon as Brady stepped down, it was just like, okay, it's my turn. Everybody else, get ready for the next 20 years because it's just going to be me. And that's just kind of the reality of it until I see otherwise. So I'm going Kansas City. I'm sticking with you guys. I didn't switch my pick. But like Josh Allen to have a great game. And
I'm surprised.
Yeah, I just wanted to be noted. I would love to see Patrick Mahomes lose as well.
Same.
I'm in that camp, but now I'm trying to get away from betting emotionally.
He wants them to give him the next play before the current play is over. And I mean, you see a guy like your own quarterback getting driven into the ground every single week and getting his brains beat in, and you never get a flag. And this guy, you breathe on him, and they're like, call the FBI. Get a SWAT team in here and get someone to put a hit out on this guy. And he is so, I mean, him and Allen, I'll be fair. I mean, the second these guys get hit, it's like, where's my flag? And it's like,
as a Bears fan, that's hard.
It's disgusting.
Fields was
disgusting
many a time. One other thing for this game, which is huge and new territory for Mahomes, is obviously being on the road, right? He doesn't have a road playoff record at all. He's played in Super Bowls, but those are neutral site. So that'll be very interesting.
Take Mahomes rushing. I think Jordan Poyer to maybe pick him off. I don't see the Bills' defensive line heating him up at all. I see him just having all day in the pocket and just, he'll run on him, he'll throw on him. Even if the Bills secondary does hold up, which I don't think it will.
I think if the Bills have any chance to win, it will be on Josh Allen's back and pick, beating the Chiefs defense one way or another.
Also, I'm surprised
I think he's proved to us that he makes mistakes. He tries to do too much at times and he turns the ball over. Maybe he won't do that. I haven't seen that as much second half of the year last week, but
it's there.
It's there.
Him and Fields keep the ball down at their hip, just holding onto it with one hand. And what defender is not just going to be like, yeah, I'll take that.
I think a big surprising and also if they can do this, they have a better shot is Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen's just off. They're off. I mean, no one was saying it all. The last 6-7 games, he's not doing much. So if he has a big game, that could be the deciding factor. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good luck to all y'all. And I hope that we can provide some insight on you listeners. And everybody pick who I pick. To be honest.
Yeah. Do we want to end it with anything?
2-4 last week. Why not? Got to go the other direction this week.
Yeah, I was 4-2, and the week before that, I was 13-3. So maybe go with me.
I'm due. and I'm sticking to my guns this week.
Fade me.
That's a mistake. Thanks, Big Al.
Thanks, Big Al. See you guys. Have a good. When are we going to be back? Next week? We'll do this next Saturday, next Friday or something. We're on a weekly
NFC, AFC
schedule.
championships.
Yeah.
Yep. Big Al's going to be here. Heard it here first. See you then.